So reality is that, we can only advance technology and information and data so far as we can actually deliver it when it comes time to the service. Otherwise, we're just collecting digital breadcrumbs and we're never going to make anything out of them.
Welcome back to the Turndown. Today, we dive deep into the world of hospitality data with Claudia Infante, Chief Data Officer at Margaritaville. We explore the challenges of data security, the shift in data collection, and why personalized guest experiences are key. But what happens when even the most detailed guest profiles lead to a major service failure? Claudia has amazing examples, so I invite you to discover her stories. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Claudia, it's a pleasure to have you on the program. Welcome to the Turndown. Thank you for coming here today.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
I want to kick off the podcast, the recording again with our standard question, which is what is keeping you up at night these days?
What's keeping me up at night? I think what keeps everybody up at night, anyone in technology, anyone in digital transformation, right? Security is probably a big one for me. The more and more we start threading technology platforms and solutions that, although we're very careful in kind of doing the vetting of the process and everything and the vendors, the reality is you open more doors and more doors and more doors for your data to be compromised, your security to be compromised, your systems to be exposed. And in our case, we've had a really great history of being very careful, and our guests trust us with their data. And so as chief data officer, that is probably the one thing that I am always kind of thinking about.
So safekeeping and the next
Making
possible.
sure that we're safekeeping our data and that we are following every possible protocol for protection of our guests' privacy and obviously the security of our data and our partners.
I've spoken to hoteliers in various locations who have started to tell me we're collecting less data because we are afraid of safekeeping that data. Is that happening?
Same thing, yeah. One of the things that I think we all got a little too happy about was, when we were able to collect data, we just kind of went on and, grabbed everything we could, and I think we all went on that route. And over the last few years, just kind of seeing um, how much exposure there is really every time that you collect a new field or a new information of data or a new drop. Every time you do that, you take on more and more responsibility for your guests' data, um, as well as for your company, right? It's a lot of exposure. So I think we have to be more. We are at least very responsible in what we collect, and the question we always ask is why. If someone says, "Oh, I want to collect the hair color of this person," then you're like, "Why? What exactly is it that you're going to be doing with that data?" Um, because I think knowing something about someone has nothing to do with you actually improving their experience. And so for us, really, that is kind of the measure is if it's not going to improve that person's experience while they're with us, then there's no reason for us to collect that data. Um, More importantly, though, there's only so much you can do in a day, especially in hotels, right? And I don't know how many of your listeners work in hotels, in the actual hotel world, every day in and day out. If you've ever been in front office or in F&B or in operations or in housekeeping, which by the way, I've done all of those, it's you don't check your email. You're not really looking at reports. Your guests are there and you need to be taking care of your guests. So data that you are not able to somehow filter through all those filters and put it in front of your agent so that they can actually take care of the guests based on that data is data that's sitting somewhere collecting dust and being a liability. So for us really is how much time and resources can you actually dedicate to a single point of data that is actually going to create an effect that is favorable to that guest. So that's kind of the filter that we have to go through when we're collecting data for anything that we're doing.
That's amazing. I mean, that's a great comment because we're firefighting, we are servicing, we're taking care of guest check-ins and
Yes.
checkouts, and at the same time, we're supposed to leverage all this data and
Oh, yeah. Oh, and by the way, I want your audience to think about, how many of you guys are fully staffed? Nobody, right? We're all short everywhere. Like those days where were able to spare a person just to do something specific is no longer. We are now an industry of generalists, right? We all have to know how to do everything because we don't have the luxury of sitting back and go, "Oh yeah, yeah, that's somebody's job." It's not anymore. Like we are all just kind of waiting to see, where we're going to be needing more resources and ready to jump in. So, um those days of all of us kind of thinking, "Oh, this is my job," um are no longer.
but I mean, we you and I are probably not normal travelers, right? Because we are so, you know, trained.
Right.
I'm leaving in about an hour. I'm heading to the airport. I'm staying tonight at a reputable North American hotel company. I have received the email already. They said, here, download the application, use this link to check in. I will do all of these things. And you and I may not be the regular guest, right?
Yeah. I mean that should be the one of the cardinal sins that I think we commit sometimes as enterprises or as executives in brands is that we think we are our customer and we're not, right? We are not. We get exposed to all of the back end of everything that we are working with. So in the same token that for hotels and restaurants and experiences, quite honestly, is difficult for us to be impressed, is not because we are snobs, is because we see it from the back end, right? Is you go in a Disney ride, and I don't know if I'm sure you have, but I go on a Disney ride and all I can think is I think about is, I wonder how it's in the back. Like, what's the engine that's driving this? How many people are looking at these
Of
rides?
course.
Because that's your operational background coming through. And
Mhm.
as an experience, as a guest, you want to experience it from, the wonder of you don't see what happens, but you're no longer doing that. We've been spoiled, right? So that's not necessarily the lens that we can now judge our experiences through. Now we have to be almost incredibly self-critical. So every time that we go through someone else's process of doing something, we have to think about how does this reflect on their organization or on the way that they're organizing my experience because we see it that way. But we're not our customers. Our customers, our guests, most of the times are just trying to navigate the myriad of things they have to do. They are trying to find the easiest way to get to us. They are looking for us to solve their problems, not for them to be, the guinea pigs, right? Um, and more importantly, they're spending and it may be different, right? Is different when you travel, and we all know this. It's different when you travel on a corporate card and
Yeah.
on your expense account. You're a lot less concerned with what happens. You just need a room and a shower and a desk that you can sit in your hotel and work. When you're spending your hard-earned money and you're
Yeah.
bringing your family and you're bringing your kids and you're bringing your spouse or the people that are, that matter in your life, everything is important. And so now it's no longer about how easy is it, is how meaningful is it? How relevant is it? How timely is it? How convenient is it, right? Can it actually make my life and my family's life better?
And how is it going to make me feel by me spending this money, right? Will I be happy? Will I be sad?
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's I always quote Maya Angelou, right? And people will forget what you said and what you did, but they will never forget the way you made them feel. And that is, to me, that should be kind of the rule that we follow. Is, does this make me feel good as a customer and as a company? Do I offer services and applications and technology that make that guest feel good about engaging with us?
I want to take a step back before we continue because we dove straight into it, which is fantastic. For the audience that is not familiar, and that's very difficult because you work for a very, very well known brand, at least in North America, but we do have international listeners. So, for the ones that are not familiar with Margaritaville, How would you describe this brand? How would you describe your company?
Well, Margaritaville is it's a company that was born out of a song that was written in 1977 by Jimmy Buffett. And this song basically describes the need for someone to get away, to escape, to go somewhere and forget about all the craziness that goes on in the world. And, to quote the song, to waste away in Margaritaville, right? And so it doesn't mean that it's all wasting away, but it means that we all need a place to escape. We all need a place to go and have fun and forget all the other stuff that we are, dealing with on a day in and day out basis. And that's what we try to do as a company. Our core value and our core purpose is to create and deliver fun and escapism. So, how we do that, we do it in different ways. We are a very diversified company. So, we are primarily a licensing and franchising company. And so, we offer experiences across a myriad of hospitality solutions, whether it's hotels, where we have, 6 different types of ways that you can sleep or, lay your head, whether it's in a hotel, a resort, a boutique little hotel. We have some camp and RV resorts, and we also have some vacation rental and then some beach villas, somewhere in the most beautiful beaches in America. So there's many different ways to enjoy a lodging experience at Margaritaville. We also have a cruise line, so we have 2 cruise ships that go, from the Port of Palm Beach or the Port of Tampa, and they take different routes and different itineraries. We have about 37 different concepts and restaurants, so you may not even know that it's a Margaritaville and you're eating in one of our restaurants. So we have about 37 of those different concepts, both on the standalone and the ones that are in the hotels. We have a full line of consumer products. So everything from, shoes and flip-flops all the way to chairs and RVs and, boats and all kinds of stuff that we put our name and our brand on. And then if you're, tired of buying and traveling and doing all of that stuff, you can go back and retire in Margaritaville and live in a home that is in Latitude, which is our 55 and better community. So Margaritaville really is, I think, the epitome of the lifestyle brand. It's a lifestyle that sings songs about entertainment, about fun, about family, about escaping the daily grind, and finding that place where you can kind of recharge your batteries. So
That's amazing. I'm sold. Is there any geographic focus? Is it mostly leisure? Like, help me understand.
we have a little bit of everything. We're mainly spread throughout the southeast, as you could expect, right? We have, I think, 9 different locations in Florida, so obviously a lot of the concentration is here. But we're also expanding to the west. So we have some properties in Missouri, we have a property in Louisiana, we have a property in we have some properties coming up in Texas. We have a couple of them in Texas actually. We have a few in California. So we're slowly making our way and pioneering west towards the Pacific coast. But there's a little bit of everything for everyone. So now that you will see Margaritaville everywhere. And you won't be able to get away from us. But Caribbean and kind of Southeast is our prominent
Right.
region.
And when you're not on podcast, what do you do at Margaritaville?
I'm the chief data officer by appointment, which means that our CEO said you need to take care of that. And so that's kind of what I do is I take care of everything that is kind of coming through the pipeline of data in technology in Margaritaville. So I've been around for about 7.5 years with the brand, and really my job was to come in and help Margaritaville set up the infrastructure needed to be a hospitality brand, right? And it was kind of when the beginning of the hotel started. And so everything from platforms like CRS and CRM and our loyalty platforms, all of the technology that is central to the brand is done through my amazing team. Really, I'm just a talking head. They really are the ones that deserve the credit for all the stuff that we're doing. And then on the side of the corporate side, my job really is to kind of identify strategies and solutions that can help us kind of move to the next level. And so everything from having data that makes sense and that helps us make decisions, as well as understanding kind of where those keep you up at night places are. So a little bit of a dual world.
I have an 11-year-old son, and he's starting to get interested. Sebastian, what do you do? He calls me dad, but what do you do?
Yeah,
And I was like, well, I work for a tech company. It's a PMS, etc. So what's a PMS? So you go down that rabbit hole of
yeah,
explaining because there's a lot of follow-up questions. And I caught myself explaining to my 11-year-old, and I shouldn't have done that, but I caught myself saying, well, it's ultimately a guest database. And as I was saying that, right, and sort of it, and I was trying to explain to him that 100 years ago we used to have, offices behind a guest reception that was basically maintaining guest profiles about
right.
travelers and their, addresses and what they liked and what they disliked, etc. And hospitality hasn't changed that much when you think about it.
No,
It's
it
airy,
hasn't.
right? Like, we had hotels 100 years ago, right? Like,
Yeah,
if you look at, and there's books about this, the Ritz-Carltons or the
yeah.
Ritzes of this world, etc., and what they did at that time and how they managed operations, etc. It's still being taught in school to a certain extent.
Yeah, it's true.
Is there, I mean, when you think of a guest database, right? And you're, basically, this is a nerd out question where I'm going with this. What has changed?
What has changed in the guest data side of things?
Correct.
The proliferation of technology across the population, right? And people at large, I think it has been exponential, especially in the last 20 years. So with that expansion of technology and access, I think the main change of data and technology has been the speed at which we have to act and the speed at which we have to react when something is available or is happening. And so I think the guest expectations and the consumer expectations have changed to where back in the day you would expect someone in a store to work in that same store for 30 years, right? The entirety of their career. And if you were a regular at that store, you would expect them to know you. That's no longer the case. So now you expect that person behind the counter to know you, even if they just started working in that store 2 weeks ago. Because now they have your data and now they know that you're a regular. Now you know, and every time you leave a breadcrumb behind,
Yeah.
every time you make a purchase, every time your credit card is swiped, every time you give them your loyalty number, they are supposed to know that you are there and who you are and what they're doing because they have systems that are doing all of that calculation for you. So I think we have become also a lot less forgiving about the availability of that data and the ability for people in service to actually be using that solution. And I give this example a lot. So I stay in this. I used to travel a lot, especially back in my days at Hard Rock. Very international was a lot more often, and so I stayed with this particular brand who was very well known, and I had a loyalty program, or they had a loyalty
Platinum
program that I
level,
was
I
a
assume.
member of for many, many years.
Platinum level, you were
Oh,
traveling
I was the Jesus Christ of that loyalty program. I travel a lot. So it was like the 75th time that I had stayed with them that year. So it was a thing. And so I arrive at the hotel. This is international, but I arrived at this hotel and they're like, "Oh, well, Miss Infante, you have stayed with us for this is your 75th stay and your 216th night or whatever." Like I had stayed a lot with these people. So we have upgraded you to the penthouse in the hotel. I was like, "Whoa, I mean, I'm impressed. Thank you so much." And of course, grateful and the whole thing. So I go up to my room and I walk in, beautiful room, beautiful, absolutely beautiful suite. And so I walk in, and there's a little basket in the desk that has a handwritten note by the GM thanking me for my loyalty, thanking me for staying with them for 75 times that year and, 280 something nights, whatever. And then the basket, I look at it, and it has a bottle of white wine with 2 glasses. It has a little bowl of chocolate, a little bowl of almonds, and a little bowl with 3 like large raspberries. And I sat there for like, I don't know, I am not kidding you. I sat there for like 20 minutes thinking about how I felt about the basket. And the reason that I did that is because never have I ever, 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 ever have I ever ordered white wine ever. I don't drink white wine, period. Actually, I don't drink wine really. So never have I ever, right? I don't like chocolate. That's well stated in my profile. Don't give me anything chocolate. It's a waste of your dollars on me. Like, I'm not a chocolate person. More importantly, I'm allergic to almonds. And they know that. They should know that because I have made a note on every CRM that I've ever, I mean, Delta knows. You know what I mean? Like everybody else knows. So I ended up having 3 wonderful raspberries all by myself because, by the way, the basket had 2 glasses, and I'm like, don't you know I'm just here myself for one night? Like, like I'm on business,
Maybe you're
whatever."
supposed to have somebody join you. Who knows, right?
Yeah, for a glass of wine that I wasn't gonna drink and 1 raspberry because I already had the other 2. And so I always say to people, if you had gone back on my profile and look at the things that I order, that I typically eat or that I typically order, and you had left me a little basket with 2 cold beers and a bag of Doritos, I would have been the happiest customer, and like I would have been loyal for the rest of my life to that brand, right? And so and so the fact that they had all of my data, that they had all of my transactions, that they know, by the way, what my preferences are, because I gave him 0 party data, personally said, I'm allergic to almonds. It means nothing, right? If when you're delivering that service, you're not paying attention to the notes. You're not paying attention to what the data is telling you. So at the end of the day, loyalty, service, delivery of all of that comes back down to the human being that's looking at that, or comes back to the person that's putting together that service. If he was a robot, I mean, the robot may have actually caught the fact that I was allergic to almonds and go, "Oops,
An
don't put
AI would
almonds
have
in there."
probably decided, nope, no almonds.
I probably would have decided, right, based on AI and the likelihood of me getting into anaphylactic shock and going, "Oh, this is a liability. I'm not going to do this." So so reality is that, we can only advance technology and information and data so far as we can actually deliver it when it comes time to the service. Otherwise, we're just collecting digital breadcrumbs, and we're never going to make anything out of them.
You are traveling right now. I'm sure you've recently traveled, or at least the last 12 months. I was very impressed recently. I don't know if it started about a year ago. Collaboration between the airlines and a government institution in the US allows you for facial boarding and facial
Right?
passing through
Facial
security,
recognition, yeah.
right? Like when I and I'm about 3 hours, I'm heading to the airport, or my plane leaves in 3 hours. But, when I pass through US Customs, I no longer show my passport. I have a camera that looks at me,
Yep.
and the system determines whether I'm eligible to travel or not.
Right.
When I board the plane, there's a camera that captures my face, and they know who I am, and I'm basically passing through the gate. That's an amazing experience, right? Like, I'm I'm okay to for government systems to
Yeah.
track my biometric information. I feel safe, I feel secure, and it's convenient. I guess my
I think
question.
everything we deliver, and again, this goes back to when you deliver something based on the data that you collect, you have to be able to deliver in a timely and relevant basis. Otherwise, you're just invading people's privacy, right?
Yeah.
So, and you said it perfectly right. Is I feel safe, with these people collecting all of my biometric information because I know that I don't have to stop. I can leave my house instead of having to leave 3.5, 4 hours before your flight so that you can be there for, I don't know, 90 minutes or 2 hours just ambling the gate, waiting to see when you're going to get on the plane. They obviously have made it easier for you to arrive a little bit later, not have to worry about, all the papers in your hand and all the things that you have to carry with you so that you can get through the gate. So because it's giving you that level of convenience and that level of um timeliness, it also, I think, is maybe turning off a little bit of your alarms of, oh, these people know who I am and they know what I'm doing, right? The other thing that happens is that we have become a lot more tolerant with our face living in different places, which that wasn't the case before, right? Like before, when someone was taking a photo, you're like, well, why are you taking a photo of me? Like, what's going on? And now we're just become so um almost numb to the amount of content and video that is captured everywhere. I mean, I hate to say it, but I go to my gym and there isn't a time when I go to my gym that I'm not in somebody's background, while they're doing their exercises and looking better. I'm in the background, like just eating a chip cookie or something, right? Like, I'm like, dude, I come here to hide so I can eat my cookies here, but never mind. Um, no, I'm kidding, but it is, you become kind of like just a prop in other people's lives, right? And so everybody now is capturing so much information through their video and their cameras that it's almost inevitable. I mean, unless you're walking around with a paper bag in your head, there's no way that you're not going to appear somewhere. So whether that is useful to deliver an experience that is more comfortable and more expedient and efficient, then that makes it valuable for us, especially when you travel, for work, for a living. Like, some of us travel, every week. And so it's yeah, you're right. It's valuable in that sense.
Well, let's imagine, and I'm curious, this is an honest question. Is this an experience that we should work towards in hospitality?
There are brands that are primed for that type of experience, and there are brands that aren't.
Okay.
I think brands that are highly transactional, if you're traveling for business and you're able to check into the hotel, the facial recognition system recognizes who you are, checks you in, sends a text message to your phone with your phone number, with your room number and your key on it, and you can walk in and basically serve yourself. If that works and that is actually efficient, it works great. And sure, it helps you do all of that. I think for brands like Margaritaville that are highly engaging brands, that are brands that, in our case, we pride ourselves in leading with our hearts, not with a screen. We want to welcome you with a smile. We want to know how your day was, and that we mean it from the heart. What can we possibly do to make your day better? To be hospitable, to be welcoming, and to be warm and candid. And I don't think you can do that with a facial recognition solution. Our guests still today spend, like our average phone call in the hotel call center is about 19 minutes long because our guests want to know
19? 1 9?
1919, while other properties or other brands are 3 or 4 minutes, right? It's in and out. For us, it isn't. Is, oh, and so if I sit by the pool, will there be someone to bring me drinks? Oh, and by the way, can I get the cabana that's two down from the waterfall because my kids like the. That's the kind of brand that we are. So I think the most important part of understanding technology and what technology you need to put in your business is understanding what your customers are looking for. And what can we do from a brand perspective and from a technology perspective to make that experience better, not necessarily faster, not necessarily um, touchless. A lot of our guests still like to be recognized when they walk in. A lot of our guests walk in the hotel and they hug the bellman because they've been coming, for 15 years, and they're like, "Oh, hi," and it's a different kind of brand. So the one thing that I think it's important when you're looking at technology solutions is understanding what your brand is and is supposed to deliver so that your guests are they know that they arrived and they feel they feel like they arrived where they expected.
So is in your particular case, it's less about leveraging the technology to streamline the operations. It's what do you use technology for? Let me ask you this.
We have a very solid kind of infrastructure of technology that allows, I think, for all of our hotels to be efficient and to be connected. Right? They again, we have a CRM, we have a lot of those things, loyalty program, that allow our guests to feel recognized when they walk in. The rest of the technology platforms that we have in our hotels are mostly derived and dedicated to take care of those kind of, how do I say, these tasks that take time but don't really improve on the experience, and free up the time of our agents and our guest service agents and our servers and our housekeepers, so that they can take care of the guests, so that they
Give me an
can dedicate
example.
that little extra minute.
Give me-
Like automation, right? If you automate, for example, your housekeeping systems, right, where you are basically, if you're the supervisor and you're supervising a room, and you can punch the supervision code on the phone, and then the phone immediately lets the front desk know that that room is vacant and available. That kind of efficiency, I think, is more important, because then it allows our supervisors to spend more time making sure that everything is right. They don't have to write it in a board, go back down to the to the front office, to the housekeeping desk, and make sure that they're punching in the numbers. Our POS and PMS solutions are connected to the PMS, so that we always know when the guest is, and where they need to go, and what services they potentially may need, right? We have solutions that are capable of checking our inventory, so that we always have plenty of towels, that we always have plenty of, shampoo and toiletries and things, so that our guests are always taken care of. So, it's more about those types of services than it is the AI recognition. And we have some AI solutions. We're testing one in our call center, for example, because we have very long telephone calls. So, the more that we can learn about the most frequent guest questions, the more our AI learns to answer those. So things like that are the things that we're interested in deploying, and making sure that our guests are also taking advantage of those, and favoring from not having to wait on hold until somebody answers the phones, but someone can quickly answer your call, or answer your questions.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. Is there anything in your well, is there anything that tech should do that it doesn't do right now for you?
Anything that tech should do that it doesn't do right now? Be more explicit. In what sense?
Well,
Technology
you
for
use
hospitality?
yeah, exactly, right? Like,
Okay.
when you think of your sort of tech stack that you use, your CRS or CRM, you mentioned a few systems already that
Yeah.
you're sort of overseeing. What's missing right now? What would make it amazing?
If you go back to like every panel or every keynote that I've ever done in the last 5 years, you'll find my same bitching
Answer.
point.
Okay, let's
My
go. Let's
same
go. Let's
bitching
go.
point. Can we please work on interfaces and connectivity? It's the one thing, right? PMS solutions are still the core of the operations in a hotel. We've tried to put it in the
CRM.
CRM, we've tried to put it in the CRS, we've tried to put it on the cloud, we try to put it in everywhere else. Not true. PMS is where
Okay.
it's at.
Okay.
And so, I mean, this is the first time I talked to you guys at Cloudbeds, but um and you and I'm sure, have friends every other PMS solution, because we've been around for so long, and we all know each other, and we're like a, big family reunion minus a potato salad, right? Like, we all know each other. And my question is always the same, is I get it that you guys can always work together because you compete and you're competitors, and I get all of that. But why make it so damn hard, man? Like, really, we
That's
have
the
to work,
hard
and we have
part.
to jump through hoops to try to get solutions to work together. And so, I
Between different systems, right? So PMS.
yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, it's unless you go vertical and you go with the same solution all across, you're pulling and tugging, and having to change your kind of your solutions as they go. That's been in my list forever, and I just think that at one point we had a really great kind of effort that was being driven by HT&G and, and some of that kind of next generation team of people that were trying to standardize how we connect, and they were doing the OTA and the HT&G and all of those things. And then something happened and it kind of broke away, and now it's there but not really, and nobody wants to talk about it. And I don't know, I just think it's time. It's time that we all kind of learn to coexist and learn to be more nimble, and maybe realize that we all have a piece of this amazing industry in our hands, and that the more we try to squeeze, the more it's kind of seeping through our fingers. So um I wish more solutions would integrate easier.
I was working on an announcement this morning. We announced our partnership with Sabre CRS, our integration with Hub.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. And I caught myself as I was reviewing the LinkedIn post, thinking of, hey, this is a connection and partnership where you don't have to maintain spreadsheets, where we do mapping
On the
automatically
fly, yeah.
on the fly, right? And you basically select which room types do you want to publish, which rate plans do you want to publish, and you do that from within the application, and you don't have
Right.
to maintain a mapping table. And I was like, how is it 2025 and this is still news?
And you're just giving up and you're just giving up
Right?
the spreadsheet.
Right? How is it 2025 and this is still news? And so I didn't post this, like the
Right.
hashtag no more spreadsheets, but you have a point, right? Like we still have to overcome some boundaries that exist between technology
Yeah.
that will make it easier for hotels to access their own information.
I'm sure you've heard and you've read this whole there's obviously a whole revolution going on within that new book, Unreasonable Hospitality, that it goes all about, the little details that you can take care of, right? To make someone's life easier. And while some of it is, in the book, some of it is true, and I'm sure you can make it happen if you, like in his case, right? He did all these amazing restaurants with a lot of people in them, and
Sure.
sure, all of that is good. How do you kind of translate that into the industry as a whole? I think is really interesting. It would be really interesting to see, how some companies could adapt a message about being hospitable and being uh, kind of, I don't want to say less selfish, because that's not necessarily it. It's more about how do we advance together, as opposed to, how do we how do we make the most out of the industry that we have. Something else that is happening, and I think it's important that we all understand, especially as veterans. And again, if you go back to every other conference, I say the same thing every time. I look around the room in all the conferences that we attend, and I see all my friends, and all my friends that have been my friends for 20 years, 20 plus years. Dude, we are getting old, and we are all kind of on our way out. Where are the new people? Where are the pioneers that are going to take our place?
You were recently honored with the Hospitality Technology Lifetime Achievement Award. Wow, that's a mouthful. I had to actually read that off to make sure that I'm getting it
You have
right.
to read it.
The important piece in here is, what is the thing that you're most proud of?
I'm proud of a lot of things. I think that the fact that I am a brown girl from Mexico that was born and raised in a really small town with a really large family and very little growing up. The fact that I somehow, made that amazing list of people that were nominated to this award, and that somehow I was selected. To me, obviously, I'm super proud of that. I will preamble that, however, with, like I said in my post and in my speech, that I didn't get there alone, and I would never ever ever have been able to get there had it not been for the support of hundreds of people that whether they knew it or didn't, helped me get there. And that goes to everyone that ever gave me a chance, that ever, again, picked up my kids because I couldn't get there on time, or that, bought me lunch because I had no money, whatever it was, right? All of those little miniature decisions and micro decisions throughout someone's life ultimately make up for your lifetime, whatever that is. So for me to be recognized for the work that I've been done really is an opportunity to recognize all of those that have been in my life and that have helped me get there. So that is what I'm most proud of, is the fact that I think I have such a network of people that have supported me throughout many, many good and bad times. And that I think I still kind of can go and knock on their door and go, hey, I really need help. And they'll come through. Um, that's what I'm most proud of.
That's amazing.
Um, and then in terms of projects, I've been part of a lot of big projects that required a lot of resources. I've been a part of big projects that had no resources. And I'm proud of each one of them. Every single one, even the ones that failed miserably, either got me there or taught me a lesson, right? I did learn very early what not to do. So a lot of what I do know now really is due to all of the failures that I've had in my career as well. So, um, Margaritaville Parks is probably at the top of my list and projects that I've been very proud of. But I'm mostly grateful. More than proud, I'm grateful.
You talked about the fact that you're looking for the next generation that will take, charge of, when
Yep.
we retire, when we're no longer there, and you don't see them yet. We had a really bad incident happening, COVID. It pushed a lot of people away from hospitality. We got bad reputation as an industry, right?
Yep.
How do we get people back into this industry and share the love that we, right, have for this industry? How do we make that happen?
Yeah. That's I think probably my concern, right? Is that I think we've somehow lost the joy somewhere along this path. We've lost the joy of being of service. And the passion that some of us have for this industry is all around, at least for me, it's all around being of service. It's being able to make somebody's day better, right? And so how do we get back to that? I think is multi prong. I don't think it's one silver bullet. I think one of the things that we have to do is get involved in the universities and the programs, the hospitality programs that are around the country, and kind of transfer and transmit the again, this joy and this passion for service to this younger generation of people who are coming out of school with a very warped idea of what making it means, right? I think the exposure that we have right now to easy money and quick fame is not relevant, right? In service and in industry, you have to work. You have to get there. You have to put in the hours. You have to put in the time. You have to put in the passion and the effort. And I think we have diluted that so much with, again, the quick fame stories that we have, that is almost and my kids say it is like, why would I do that? That takes too long. Like, why would I want to do that? And you have to kind of be able to answer the question with, because it's worth doing. But how do you do that without having some data points to help, right? And so the data, unfortunately, is not helping us, right? We are an industry that is falling behind on equality, is falling behind on pay, is falling behind on service, is falling behind on a lot of things. So I think as an industry, we really have to look at what we have to offer new people, because you know what? Hospitality degrees can also go work in healthcare and they pay better. They can also go work in finance and they pay better. They can go work on insurance and they pay better. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many other industries that pay better, that have kind of attracted talent, even if it's just through dollars. But that's the only way that we can attract people to come and work for us, unless you're kind of working because you love it and then you don't need the money. But reality is, none of us do. At the beginning of our careers, we all need to be compensated. So I think that is one of those things. And then bringing the old luxury or the old kind of glamour of being in the hotel industry back. I don't know. We're gonna have to do something about that. Whether it's, we give ourselves, I don't know, some makeup and work done or something so we look better, because we right now look, like we have been run through. And so people look at me like, why would I want to do and work, and you're only 50 and look at you. So maybe that's something else that we need to do, is we need to be a little bit nicer to ourselves, and really kind of, try to inject in people the passion and really the joy that it is to be in the service industry.
It may be a very personal question, but I'm curious, what made you join the industry?
Money. I'm an art major. I went to school for art. I did not even think of hospitality, and I say it all the time. I'm from Mexico, born and raised, right? So I'm sure you've been to Mexico. I'm sure many of your listeners have been to Mexico, and so for us, service is a culture. Service is part of who we are. That's just how we are born and kind of grown through the system. So hospitality was always part of my DNA, right? And especially growing up in Mexico. So when I finished school, I realized that to make it as an artist, I was probably gonna have to be a starving artist for a long time before I made it. And I had already been a starving student, a starving kid, a starving everything. So I was like, I can't do that. So at the time, one of my cousins actually said, "Hey, come to Texas. There's work over there for everybody." And so I did. Thankfully, my mom had already arranged for a permanent resident card for me, because I was a minor when she came to the U.S. And so I came to the Texas to Dallas, and I started working at a Marriott there by the airport in banquets. And I made good bucks, and I was in banquets and I was good at it, and I have the kind of the personality, and I got good tips, and people just kind of, I was naturally drawn to people. And so that kind of started a career that I didn't even know I wanted. Um, and then Lexington Services, which was a independent agency that helped independent hotels make reservations, needed someone who could speak Spanish at a professional level. And so I got my first job in technology and in hospitality, and that, looking at Sabre and Amadeus and System One and Apollo, and looking at reservations that weren't coming through, and why was the data getting stuck, and those matrix printers that were like 3 feet wide, and looking for that one code and see what was lost in there. And somehow I got hooked on this whole data thing that just, it was amazing to look at how it worked, and how it made things easier for travelers. So yeah, it was kind of like a little bit of a, just went in head first and never looked back.
Thinking about the next generation, right, and also sort of you thinking backwards, is there anything that you would do differently? Do you have any recommendation to Claudia at the beginning of her career, what she should do differently?
Be less judgmental of yourself. I did that a lot. I am my worst critic all the time. And that sometimes is what held me back from trying on that for that job, or going and meeting that person and saying hello, or just the sheer kind of fear of not being good enough. And it's, you probably can't see it, right? Because everybody thinks that because you're up there, or you won this thing, or you're sitting on that panel, or you did that keynote, you got your entire life figured out. And very few people really kind of realize that, you're kind of having or struggling with the same things that everybody else does, right? So for me, I would have been much kinder and probably less afraid with myself. And kind of, acted a lot faster.
Claudia, I don't have a better way of wrapping this up. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, your experience, your
My pleasure.
stories. Thank you for joining the program. And it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you and re-talking to you because we've met at some point. We've decided, right?
Likewise, I'm just glad that we somehow remember each other. I'm sure we will not forget for now. So thank you. I so appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share just my experience, and I'm here if anybody wants to have a chat about how to get in here and be passionate about service. Here we are.
That brings us to the end of yet another episode of The Turndown. Huge thanks for all of you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. Of course, this podcast wouldn't be possible without the amazing team behind the scenes. A massive shout out to the producers, Paula Carrero, Linda Pajai, Lana Cook, Ricky Sherman, and Ailey Fakuhasan for the incredible research and pre-production work always keeping us on track. To Paulo Sanchez, thank you for your stellar audio editing and for making us sound so good. And finally, thank you to Ying Liu for her organizational talents and keeping the season on schedule, literally. Remember to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and follow us for updates and bonus content. Until then, take care and stay curious.